Okay, hi again. Welcome back. So for this video, we are going to talk about the income statement of merchandising entities. So like what we mentioned in the past, medyo lahi ang income statement sa merchandising entities. So you would get to better appreciate merchandising merchandising entities if you look at its income statement. So like what I have also said in the past, it's very important for you to remember the components of the income statement of merchandising entities. So we start with what we call as net sales, and from that we deduct cost of sales, and net sales minus cost of sales is your gross profit, and to that you add or deduct income or expenses, and then that will give you your profit. Okay, so very quickly, let me just ask, net sales minus cost of sales is what? Net sales minus cost of sales is gross profit. Okay, so again, please familiarize yourselves. Please make sure that you take these components to heart, as later on you will be asked to make your own, or you will be asked to make an income statement for a merchandising entity. So let us start by talking about net sales. What is net sales? Basically, net sales is computed as your gross sales less your sales returns and allowances and sales discounts. That's why it's called net. Okay, net would imply then that there is something that we deducted from the gross amount. Okay, so at this point, let us get to know what gross sales is. So gross sales basically would be the total sales. So when we say total sales, that will account for sales which were for cash and sales which were for credit. So it doesn't matter if the customer paid you in cash or if you got a receivable in exchange for the service or the merchandise or the item, both would still comprise what we call as total sales or gross sales. Note that only merchandise held for resale are recorded in the sales account. What do we mean by this? So take for example, kadto ato ang gipalit before nga office supplies, di ba? So nipalit tag office supplies, then we debit office supplies, and then we credit accounts payable. Now supposing na ay employee nga ganahan mo palit og ballpen. Kay di ta usually mamaligya og ballpen, but this employee is in dire need of a pen and nihangyo siya. So instead nga manguha lang siya ballpen from the office, ninyo siya pwede ulian na lang na nako nga ballpen kay I really need it. In that case, kung ang ballpen was giulian lang sa employee, then that means that it should be sold to the employee at cost. So if the ballpen cost 5 pesos, so gibaligyan mo siya sa employee, the entry would be debit to cash 5 pesos, credit office supplies 5 pesos. Okay? Not sales. Kaya ang sales, pwede ra siya gamiton if ang imuhang gibaligya are those merchandise held for resale. Okay? Same as for example na kay item of property, plant, and equipment. Let's say you have a delivery van, and then imuhang gibaligya as a delivery van. No? So, kay dili man na siya mao imuhang merchandise held for resale, when you sell the delivery van, you would not recognize sales. Rather, you will debit cash, and then you will close the accumulated depreciation of that van by debiting accumulated depreciation, and then you will credit delivery van. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Pwede lang ta mo gamit sa sales account if what we are selling is merchandise held for resale. Okay, now we have already encountered sales discounts. So sa ato pang discuss before, sales discounts are actually cash discounts. And if you remembered, cash discounts encourage prompt payment. So from the side of the seller, this is called a sales discount. Take note that a sales discount is a contra income account. So this is another example of a contra account. But this time, it's a contra income account because it will be deducted from sales. If you would notice the formula, so you have sales less sales returns and allowances. So both of these accounts, because they are deducted from gross sales, they are called contra income accounts. Okay, and because sales has a normal credit balance, kay income man ang sales, revenue man ang sales, no? So the normal credit balance, the normal balance is credit. So ang contra income would go to the opposite of the normal balance, which is debit. So the normal balance of sales discounts is debit. Sales returns, as we have already discussed, no, mao ni siya katong mga gipang-uli sa imuhang mga customer, and then because giuli man siya sa customer, this is also considered as a contra income account. And similar to sales discounts, the balance is a debit. Now take note that when you talk about transportation out or freight out, transportation out or freight out is considered as an operating expense. Okay, so wala siya labot in the computation of net sales. even when we say that we recognize transportation out when we sell something and when it was sold FOB destination. Regardless of that, please take note that transportation out or freight out is classified as an operating expense, and as you can very well see, is not part of the computation of net sales. Okay, so in order for us to apply what we have learned, let's take a look at these transactions and let's prepare the entries for these transactions. Okay, so I hope you have your pen and your paper and your calculator ready with you. So as I read each transaction, please write on your sheet of paper what you think or what the correct entry is for these transactions. Okay, so here are some of the transactions of Jefferson Triguero Distributors whose credit terms are 2/10 and over 30. Okay, so on June 1, cash sales of 180,000. So I repeat, on June 1, cash sales of 180,000. Kindly write the entry in the sheet of paper that I suppose you have with you now. If wala pa mo sheet of paper right now, you can just hit pause and then get a sheet of paper, ball pen, and calculator. So I repeat, June 1, cash sales 180,000. I hope you are done with the entry. June 4, sales on account. I repeat, June 4, sales on account 650,000. Again, please write the entry in the sheet of paper that you have. Okay. And then June 7, received returned merchandise sold on account 90,000. You received some returned merchandise that you previously sold on account for 90,000. Okay, please write the entry. And then finally, on June 10, collected the amount due from credit sales. I repeat, collected the amount due from credit sales. Okay, so I hope you now have your entries with you in that sheet of paper that you have. So for June 1, cash sales 180,000. Of course, the entry would be debit to cash and credit sales 180,000. On June 4, you have sales on account 650,000. So because the sales were made on account, you did not yet receive the cash. So the entry is simply debit accounts receivable and then credit sales 650,000. And on June 7, your customer returned some merchandise to you, and these merchandise were previously sold on account for 90,000. So the entry will be debit sales returns and allowances 90,000 and then credit accounts receivable 90,000. And on June 10, you collected the amount due from the credit sales. And the credit sales were made on June 4, and the credit term is 210 and 30. So this was collected within the discount period. So we start with 650,000 and there was a return of 90,000. So that means the balance is 560,000. We have a 2% cash discount. So the cash discount is 11,200. Okay, so you should be able to debit cash. Okay, let me just check that one once again. You should be able to debit cash of 548,800 and then debit your sales discount for 11,200. And then, of course, credit accounts receivable for 560,000. Okay, I hope you were all able to get the correct entries. So basically, here are the correct entries. Yeah, hopefully you were able to get the correct entries. So never mind the next slide, I made some changes. So we were not able to update that. So I repeat, on June 1, that's debit to cash. And then credit sales, 180,000. I'll just maybe correct the next slide. I forgot to update this one. Okay, so let's just change the entries we have right here. Actually, only one entry needs to be updated, and that's the entry on June 10. Like we said, this was paid within the discount period, kay 2/10 man. So as what we have computed, that's a debit to cash. And then we should not forget a debit to sales discount. Okay. Okay, this is what happens when you update a problem last minute and not update the answers. I'm so sorry. So again, 560,000 at 2%. We have a sales discount of 11,200. And that means that the cash we have collected is 548,800. All right. So that is our entry. So I hope that you got the entries correctly. So at this point, before we proceed, actually the next question would ask for you to compute the amount of net sales. So to compute the amount of net sales, we would need to have gross sales. So in order to check or to compute for gross sales, we simply highlight all the sales we made during the period. So you have sales, you have sales. Remember, gross sales is the total of cash and credit sales. So our gross sales is 180 plus 650. We have a total gross sales in the amount of 830,000. And remember the formula, gross sales minus sales returns and allowances. So minus this one, 90,000, and then less any sales discount. So we have a sales discount here, that's 11,200. So what is the amount of your net sales? I'd like you to comment in our Facebook page, okay? So, just ready your answers maybe in your sheet of paper, and then later when you go back to our Facebook page, comment the amount of the net sales. That will serve as your attendance, one of the many attendance schemes we'll be having for this video. Okay, so comment the amount of net sales in our Facebook page where the link to this video is found. So I repeat, gross sales is simply the total amount of sales less sales returns, sales discounts, and sales allowances. So I hope you already have the amount of net sales ready. Okay, so let's have another example. On June 8, 2019, Beatriz sold merchandise for 16,000 to Northern Company, terms 210 and 30. On June 12, 4,000 worth of the merchandise was returned, and on June 18, Beatriz received a check for the amount due. So let's try to make the entries for this one. I hope you have your notes, your sheet of paper ready with you. Let's try to make the entry. Please prepare the entry for June 8. So June 8, Beatriz sold merchandise for 16,000. The terms are 2 over 10 and over 30. Okay. And then next, please write the entry for June 12. On June 12, 4,000 worth of merchandise was returned. And lastly, please write the entry for June 18 when Beatriz collected from the customer the amount due. Okay, so I hope your entries are already ready, and here are the answers. Of course, on June 8, we will debit accounts receivable and then credit sales. As you can see, there was a 16,000 sale. And then on June 12, when there was a return, we will debit sales returns and allowances, and we will credit accounts receivable. And finally, on June 18, upon collection, so if you would notice, June 8 and it was paid on June 18, so this was within the discount period. So because this is within the discount period, then we will be computing the discount. So that 16,000 original balance less the 4,000, which is our which represented the returns, and then the discount is at 2%. So it's given here 2 over 10. So therefore, we have a sales discount of 240. So our entry then will be debit cash 11,760, debit sales discount 240, and credit accounts receivable 12,000. So at this point, may I now ask you to compute for net sales? So to compute for net sales, you have sales, that's 16,000, less sales returns, so 16,000 minus 4,000, less your sales discount of 240 pesos. Therefore, our net sales for this particular set of transactions is 11,760. Okay, so that is for net sales. So I hope you were able to get the computation of net sales. It's actually quite easy for as long as you know, get to remember the formula for net sales. So right now, let's talk about cost of sales. Cost of sales is quite a lengthy formula, and this is perhaps one of those times where I will have to ask you to memorize a formula. Okay, so the formula for cost of sales is merchandise inventory beginning. And to merchandise inventory beginning, you add net cost of purchases. In some textbooks, this is actually called net purchases. Okay, but see, Mr. Balyanda Magud, our author, prefers to call this one net cost of purchases. But basically, this is your net purchases. So your merchandise inventory beginning plus your net purchases or net cost of purchases is called goods available for sale. And this is sometimes called total goods available for sale. And to that, you deduct merchandise inventory or the ending inventory, and this will be your cost of sales. So again, if we are to recall, so beginning inventory plus net cost of purchases is, beginning inventory plus net cost of purchases is total goods available for sale. Total goods available for sale minus ending inventory is your cost of goods sold. Now you have to be familiar with this formula, because sometimes in the examination, especially if it's a multiple choice type of exam, what they would sometimes do is they will remove one variable and then you have to solve for the missing item. So for example, you are given inventory beginning, you're given merchandise inventory end, you're given cost of sales, and you are asked to compute for net cost of purchases. Or you may be given goods available for sale and you're given cost of sales, and you will be asked to compute for merchandise inventory end. Okay, so you have to, like I said, familiarize yourselves with the formula for cost of sales. So to break down net cost of purchases or net purchases, so basically what you have would be purchases less the contra purchase accounts. So the contra purchase accounts are returns, allowances, and discounts, of course. In the book of Mr. Baliada, he calls this one net purchases. And then you add transportation in, then you will find net cost of purchases. But for purposes of our future examinations, if in case gani the problem would say net purchases, then that actually means the net cost of purchases. Okay? Kasi Mr. Baliada lang ni ang butang-butang ani actually, no, that napa siya net purchases nga part. But in most exams, especially kung multiple choice na usually ilang ihatag diretso is net purchases, no? So apil na dira si transportation in. So remember this one, right? So whenever we talk about items that will be deducted, we call it a contra account. But in the case of transportation in, this is what we mentioned. This is what we call an adjunct account. It's adjunct because it will be added. Okay, so let's have these transactions. Several purchase transactions were presented below, and the credit terms are 3, 10, and 30. So again, hopefully you have your sheet of paper ready with you, and let us now prepare the entries. For October 6, purchased merchandise for cash, 200,000 FOB shipping point. Okay, please write the entry. Purchased merchandise for cash. And then on October 12th, purchased merchandise on account, 700,000. Okay, again, write the entry please. Purchased merchandise on account, 700,000. And then on October 15, returned merchandise purchased on account, 50,000. You returned merchandise purchased on account, 50,000. And then October 17, you paid the supplier the amount due. And then October 19, you paid freight charges of 7,000 on the merchandise acquired last October 6. Okay, so let's try to see if the entries that you made were correct. I hope that you did make the entries. If wala pa mo nahuman, then please hit pause before we reveal the correct answers to the entries. Alright, let's start with October 6. Purchased merchandise for cash, 200,000. So therefore, because what you are purchasing is merchandise, okay, so we will debit purchases, 200,000, and then credit cash, 200,000. Okay, and by the way, if wala siya nag-mention if periodic or perpetual, we use the periodic inventory system. So that's why we say debit purchases, credit cash. Next, on October 12, you purchase merchandise on account, so debit purchases, credit accounts payable, 700,000. Then on October 15, you returned the merchandise purchased on account, perhaps defective ni siya, no? So debit, what is our debit? Accounts payable, 50,000. Credit, purchase returns, and allowances, 50,000. On October 17, you paid the supplier the amount due. So let's try to check. You purchased it on October 12 and it was paid on October 17, so it is within the discount period. So therefore, 700,000 minus 50,000, you have 650,000 as the remaining balance due. So 2% of that is 13,000. So basically what we will do is we will debit accounts payable, 650,000, and then credit cash, 637,000, and then credit purchase discount, 13,000. I hope your entries are correct. And October 19, you paid freight charges of 7,000 on the merchandise acquired last October 6. So on October 6, we acquired merchandise, and we are told that this merchandise is FOB shipping point. So if it is shipping point, FOB shipping point, then this is the items are owned by the buyer in transit, and when the buyer owns the goods in transit, the buyer should shoulder the transportation cost. And when the buyer shoulders the transportation cost, we call this one as freight in, no, or transportation in. So therefore, your entry there should have been debit transportation in or freight in, and then credit cash. Kaya kita may nibayad on October 19. Okay, so let's try to see if we got the entries correctly. Yes, we purchased for cash, we purchased on account, we returned, and then we paid. Wait, why is this 650,000 times 0.02? Why is it 19,500? Oh no, it's not 0.02. Sorry, class. Sorry. It's 3%. I apologize. It's 3%. So 650,000 times 3%. That's 19,500. Okay, so that's what you got right there. I think you got the correct answer. Basin ako lang nasipyat. I thought 2%. Naanad sa 2%. And then finally, we have transportation in of 7,000. Okay, so at this point, I would like for you to compute the amount of net purchases or net cost of purchases. Okay, so compute the amount of net cost of purchases. For us to do that, we have to remind ourselves of the formula. So the formula to compute for cost of sales at a class, no? Formula to compute cost of sales is beginning inventory plus net purchases. So beginning inventory plus net purchases is total goods available for sale. Total goods available for sale minus ending inventory is cost of sales. Wala na gini siya na itsura, class, no? Cost of sales. I'm really sorry. Now let's take a look at how to compute for net purchases or net cost of purchases. So to compute for net cost of purchases, you will have your purchases. So in this case, ato ko nang i-compute pila ang purchases. Dara, 200,000 plus 700,000. No? So that's a total of 900,000 plus. In your notes, tarong nga taon ninyo suwat, class, ha? Ayaw sunda si Miss. Lisod mo gud kay ipagsuwat nga mouse, class. So kani spell out yun siya, purchases. Okay? See, di gud masabtan. Okay? And then from purchases, remember you have to deduct the contra purchase accounts. So what are our contra purchase accounts? We have purchase returns and allowances, and then we have purchase discounts. So we have here purchase returns and allowances. That's 50,000. Okay, and then purchase discounts, that's 19,500. So that's a total of, okay, 69,500. Okay, nga i-deduct. Okay, kontra man ni siya. Okay, and then remember the adjunct account. Okay, so when you add this, according to Mr. Balyada, mo ni siya gitawag nga net purchases, 969,500. Sorry, class. And then to that, you add transportation in. So, ibutang lang ninyo dira sa ubos, isumpay siya, no? So, add transportation in. Transportation in is 7,000. So, 69,000, ay, sorry. Sorry, class, ha? Na-stress jud ko sa akong agi, class. Manang imbis unta, gi-add, gi-plus. Wa na. Sorry jud kay class. We have, I repeat, that's 900,000 minus 69,500. So this should be 830,500. Plus, mouse raman good, yun. Bati yun ng agi. 830,500 plus the transportation in of 7,000. So we should be able to come up with net purchases of 837,500. Okay, I hope I got it right. Kay medyo na-stress ko gamay sa akong pagsuwat-suwat. Again, total purchases are 900,000 minus purchase returns of 50,000 minus 19,500 purchase discounts plus your transportation in of 7,000. So you should be able to get net purchases of 837,500. Okay, net purchases lang na siya, class, ha? So 837,500. So that is our net purchases. Okay, now Suppose that natay additional information. So assume that we were told that the company's beginning inventory was determined to be 100,000. And then nag-inventory count ko na sila. And it was discovered that the unsold inventory, so may unsold inventory at the end of the year, meaning mao ni atong ending inventory. The unsold inventory amounted to 200,000. This time we are asked to compute for cost of goods sold. So, unsa gani ito yung formula, class, to compute for cost of goods sold? If you would remember, that's beginning inventory plus net cost of purchases. Okay. Then, this will give you total goods available for sale, or TIGAS. And then from that, you deduct ending inventory. This will give you cost of sales. Okay, so ang gipa-compute sa ato karon is cost of sales. So we are told that there's beginning inventory, that's 100,000. So have it right here, 100,000. And then we have computed kanina the net purchases. No? So ato itong i-compute, 837,500. So that means our total goods available for sale, you just add beginning inventory to net purchases. So our total goods available for sale is 937,500. And then to that, you deduct your ending inventory. So ending inventory is 200,000. Okay. So, therefore, pila ang cost of sales? Ako lang balikon class ha, that's 100,000 plus 837,500 nga atong gi-compute ganina minus 200,000, which is our ending inventory. So, therefore, our cost of goods sold is 737,500. Okay, may pa ang highlighter gamiton class kay marang-harang pa akong agi. 737,500. Alright, so I hope that you were able to get that. And maybe after this video, I'll be giving you some assignments para makapractice mo. Okay, sige. So, we're done with that. Let's now proceed to so we're done with net sales less cost of sales. So net sales minus cost of sales is gross profit. So gross profit is a difference between net sales and cost of goods sold. Now based on the assignment we had on Ophelia, katubitang sa periodic versus perpetual, no? So kung nakabantay mo, every time siya makabaligya, iyahang gi-specify kung asa gikan ang gibaligya, right? However, that may not always be the case. So ang gitawag na to ato class is specific identification. But like I said, that may not always be the case. Sometimes gross profit is based on net sales, and sometimes it can be based on cost. Okay, so let's have this one as an example. What do I mean by that? So assume the following information. Net sales is 1,250,000, and then cost of goods sold and gross profit. So we're going to compute for cost of goods sold and gross profit. All right. Sorry, let me just open an Excel file para makasolve the class. For a while lang kay class ha. Sorry about that. I might have already this it's a different one. Okay, sige, for a while lang kayo class, gamay lang. Okay, sorry. So nata diri class, no, the given information is that net sales is 1,200,000. Net sales is okay. So we have net sales at 1,250,000. So if you remember, natay duha ka assumption adto, no? So and we are asked to compute for cost of sales. We are also asked to compute for gross profit. So like I said, kato sa atong previous example ni Ophelia, no, ato gitong gi-individual og identify asa gikan ang iyahang nabaligya. So na-identify yun to specifically iyahang gross profit. But what if wala tagingnan, no, kung asa gikan ang iyahang nabaligya, pilay original cost? Sometimes what the problem will do is that they will give you the gross profit rate. So panalitan class, let's have as our first assumption. The first assumption is gross profit is So gross profit is 25% of sales. Okay? What do we mean by that? Okay, the thing to remember is kung asa na niya gi-base, mao na siya ang 100%. So kung naingon siya nga gross profit is 25% of sales, that means net sales is 100%. Okay? Now, remember the formula. The formula to compute for gross profit is net sales minus cost of sales equals gross profit. Okay? Mao na siya ang formula. Net sales minus cost of sales equals gross profit. So according to this, gross profit is 25% of sales. So sales become 100% and gross profit is said to be 25%. So if sales is 100% and gross profit is 25%, pila di ay si net sales? Pila di ay si cost of sales? I repeat that. If net sales is 100% and gross profit is 25%, pila di ay si cost of sales? Cost of sales must have been 75%. Ano 75% man? Well, 100 minus 75 equals 25. Namo man na iyahang formula. And according to this, gross profit is 25% of sales. So I mean to say sales is 100%. Okay? I hope you're still with me so far. All right? So in order for us to compute cost of sales, because cost of sales is 75%, then all we would need to do is to get 75% of net sales. So 1,250,000 times 75%. Okay, times 75%. So 75% of that, something's wrong with my formula, I apologize. Okay, is 937,500. Okay, so 1 to 50, we simply got 75%. And because the formula for gross profit is net sales minus cost of sales, that means our gross profit is 312,500. Okay, another way class is kung ganahan mo sa gross profit mag-una, then you will simply say 1,250,000 times 25%. That will give you your gross profit of 312,500. Okay, that is our first assumption, that gross profit is 25% of sales. Now, let's go to the next assumption. The next assumption is what if. Independent assumption niya. So, meaning to say, what if wala ni nato gibuhat? And what if, what we know is that gross profit is 25%, but not of sales. It's 25% of cost of sales. Okay, so mao siya ang given, 25% of cost of sales. Okay, so analyze ha, di ba we said kanina, kung asa niya gi-base, mao to siya ang 100%. So mao ni siya atong example ngayon na class. So let's create another one here. Okay, sorry. Give me just a second or 2 seconds. So, if what we are saying is that gross profit is 25% of cost and our net sales is 1,250,000 and gross profit is 25% of cost of sales, di ba? Kung asa siya base, kung unsa iyang base, maunay 100%. So, meaning to say cost of sales is 100%. And gross profit is 25%. Okay? Now, my question is, pila ka percent ang sales? Remember ha, our formula is net sales minus cost of sales equal gross profit. So, if gross profit is 25% and cost of sales is 100%, 100% siya kay siya man may gihimo nga base, what is then the percentage of net sales? The percentage of net sales must be 125%. Okay, nga naman na 125 minus 100 equals 25. No, so sakto ang formula. Other students, they have a tendency to put 75 here. But remember, if you say 75 minus 100, mahimo ning negative 25, di ba? So dapat that should be 125. Para 125 minus 100 will give you 25%. Okay, now the next question is, how do we compute for cost of sales? Okay, so tungod kay ang atoang net sales man maoy base, dili pareha diri ganina no, to compute for cost of sales ato ra ni siyang gi-multiply by 75%. We cannot do that now kay dili man ni siya ang 100%. So to get the 100%, I hope you still remember your math. So to get the 100%, you have 1,250,000 divided by 125% or 1.25. Okay, so I repeat, how do you get the 100% of this? Okay, you simply divide 1,250,000 by 125%. So get your calculators and perform that calculation. 1,250,000 divided by 125% or 1.25, and that will give you 1 million. Okay, so therefore your cost of sales is 1 million. So if your net sales is 1,250,000 and your cost of sales is 1 million, net sales minus cost of sales is gross profit. So gross profit then is 250,000. Okay, so just give yourselves a minute to look into that. So pero class usual yun, if the problem is silent, usual kanigid na siya, no, that gross profit is based on sales. So kung hatagan mo sa sales nya, ipa-prepare mo og entry using perpetual nya, kailangan mo sa amount sa cost of sales nya, hatagan mo sa gross profit rate, no, at least now you will know how to prepare the entries or how to arrive at the amount of the cost. Okay, like I said, if the problem is silent nya, mo na siya gross profit is 25%, then the assumption is it is based on sales. Ma-based on cost lagi na siya class if is specifically mentioned yun siya sa problem. Okay, so I hope you were able to get that. Again, just feel free to rewatch the video no, in case na ay portion nga gikalibgan. Okay, so that is cost of goods sold. And at this point, we basically talk about the other income or expense accounts. And for the other income or expense accounts, this is the third major part of the income statement. This is actually called operating expenses. And operating expenses are categorized into distribution or selling expenses. And take note, freight belongs here. No? So, naa diri si freight. And then administrative. So when we say administrative, mao ni siya ang mga cost of managing the business, such as for example, salaries of your manager, pananglitan. Pero class, kung mayon kag salary sa imong sales person, nusuna po na siya diri sa selling. Pero salary of the manager, naa sa administrative. Panalitan mo yung matag depreciation expense. Depreciation sa unsa man. Kung depreciation siya sa imong office building, administrative. Pero kung depreciation siya sa imong showroom, no, sa imong selling area, then it will be part of your selling expenses. Okay, and other operating expenses. Now, dili na kayo na ko na siya super discuss because I would rather that you work on a problem, no, para ato agad siyang ma-apply the income statement of a merchandising entity. So, I will be posting in our FB page unsa inyong assignment with regards this one. But for now, please do not forget to comment on this, no, katong akong gipangayo ninyo nga answer ganina, para that will serve as your attendance for this video. And please watch out for the announcement kung unsa ang atoang assignment. Okay? And then we will be having a virtual class on Monday. Hopefully the internet is better. So for our virtual class on Monday, ato apong i-discuss ang assignment that you will be having for the income statement of merchandising entities. Alright? So thank you very much. And like I said, please watch out for the assignment announcement. Bye-bye!